So goes get the car, and here they are walking down the sidewalk in front of the house.
And I got the domestic one, so I'm calling on all the turkeys.
Okay.
All right. Is it 6? It is 6. Good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, January 10th, 2023, and it is 6 p.m., and we will call to order the regular meeting of the Millwood City Council. I'd actually like to switch one thing around. I'd like to do the call to order and the roll call together, and then we'll move into the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would call the roll, please, to establish quorum.
Mayor Freeman.
Present.
Councilmember Beasy. Here. Councilmember Culler.
Present.
Councilmember Van Hees.
Here.
Councilmember Sander.
Here.
Councilmember Stravens.
Present.
Let the record reflect that all council members are present and we have a quorum for tonight's business. So at this time, we will go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Allen, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. So we have tonight's agenda before us. I would ask if any member of the council would like to change or amend tonight's agenda. Any movement for that? Seeing none, we'd be looking for a motion from council to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve. I second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, tonight's agenda is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. So tonight, we have our agency reports and presentations. We have a monthly report from the Spokane Valley Fire Department, followed by a levy presentation, and would like to note that we have made a proclamation. The city has signed the proclamation proclaiming this week Community Risk Reduction Week, and I'm sure Chief Soto will address that as well, but we are happy to be a part of Community Risk Reduction Week. And at this time, would welcome Chief Soto to the podium, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, council members, Mayor. So I'm going to go ahead and get started into the PowerPoint, and the reason is it has the numbers in it, and it also covers our community risk reduction and specifically why it's important to have this proclamation and to have this this week where we can recognize the importance of it. We'll wait for you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So again, I am Frank Soto Jr. I'm your fire chief for the Spokane Valley Fire Department, and I'm very humbled and with much pleasure and very thankful that you've allowed me to come here and present this M&O levy and just how the department is doing for y'all. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So I'm gonna jump right in. Here we go. Uh-oh. It was.
You broke it.
So what's our mission? And this is our game plan. This is our playbook. We're professionals who care for our community through emergency response and risk reduction, and that's that community risk reduction that we're talking about. What do you expect from your fire department? That's what I often ask those that I go and I talk to. And generally, the top answers I always receive are, we want a fire department that is at fully staffed. We want a department that has strategically placed fire stations. We want a fire department that responds in a timely manner. We want a fire department that provides advanced life support, paramedic skills. These are hugely important, not just for our community, but for even other agencies that we help support. As you can see, we've been here we're going on 83 years now. We have a 5-member board. We have 200 people roughly, and this past year, we surpassed 23,000 calls, which is almost a 5% increase from last year's call volume. So extremely busy. 82% of those are for EMS calls. We have a Washington Survey and Rating Bureau Class 2 fire department. And I'll get more into that and the accreditation that we're talking about on the bottom. Very important. Okay, here we go. Either you're moving forward or you're moving backward. Nobody stays the same. That's what we pride ourselves here at Valley Fire, is that we're continually trying to be better. That's continuous quality improvement. Where I really want to focus on here is the fact that we are an accredited fire agency. I know we've talked about this before, but people need to understand it is a huge undertaking and process. It usually takes 3 to 5 years to get the accreditation, and then you still have to maintain it annually every year. So we are one of 301 fire departments in the entire world. So that's not the state of Washington, that's not the United States, that's the whole world. Here in the state of Washington, there's only 7 accredited fire departments, and we are the only public one that is east of the Cascades. So if you're wondering, hey, are we trying to be the best? Are we trying to do those really important things and keep our community involved with us? Absolutely. That right there tells you we are all about our community and community involvement and how we provide our business. The Washington Survey and Rating Bureau is also really important. That's where they come up with basically what you're going to be paying for your home insurance. So there are 10 classes, class 10 being the worst, which means you're going to pay the most amount of money, and class 1 being the best. This year, after 100 years, the state of Washington finally announced that there's one class 1 fire department. So there's only 5 more that are class 2s. Of those class 2s, we are one of them, and we are the only agency east of the Cascades. The important part here for the taxpayers is this. When that number, that class rating goes up or down, that is going to either increase or decrease your home insurance annual payment by 10%. So if it goes up, then you're going to pay 10% more. If it goes down, you're going to pay 10% less. And the key here for you as elected officials is that being a class 2 fire department brings in businesses, because they say, hey man, I'm going to pay a lot less taxes here. I'm going to pay a lot less on insurance. I'm coming here. And the same thing with residents. So these are very important, and we want to keep those. This is our area, or the areas that we respond to, is 75 square miles. We offer services for the city of Millwood, Spokane Valley, and Liberty Lake, as well as the unincorporated areas of the county, which is Otis Orchard, Paradise Park, and parts of Green Acres. You can see all of our fire stations are strategically located, and I'll get into another map later where we're really going to get into that. So we're an all-hazard agency. One of the things I run up against more than anything is people who think that we just fight fires. And really, at the end of the day, fighting fires is not, we don't do a lot of it, but we train specifically for it, because when it does happen, you're going to fall to your level of training. And if you're not training for it, you're not going to do anything good for your community. So of the call volume of that 23,000 calls, 19,000 right on the money was for EMS for last year, which was a little 5.2% above last year's EMS numbers. So a lot of EMS calls. I have presented before, and I'm still proud to say that we are still the #1 location for recovery of cardiac arrest. So for cities of 100,000 or jurisdictions of 100,000 or more, we are #1 in the United States of America. So if you're going to have a heart attack, this is the place you want it. Basically, what our success is what you saw the other day with the Buffalo Bills, Denny Hamlin, when he died on the field and they brought him back. That's what we're talking about. We're #1. With structure fire, in fact, staying on that again, the 116 lives, I know I've talked about that before. Those are people that were clinically dead that were brought back to life and live normal, everyday lives right now. Structure fires, we had 67. I'm proud to say that we had 10% less fires than last year. That's our goal of community risk reduction and fire prevention as a whole, is to reduce fires. Of the fires that we did have in 2022, we lost a total of 1.5 million. So of our community members, that's what they lost total in everything that was involved with the fire, 1.5 million. However, we were able to save 11 million. So we kept the losses as low as possible. So that's a huge monetary impact, because people forget that it doesn't just stop at losing your house or losing a business. Where do you go? Where do you live? More importantly, where do I work? So those are important to us to get there quickly. And that's what we talked about, right? Having that strategically located fire stations, responding in a timely manner, and being at full staffing. That's what it brings you. Wildland fires, 78, vehicle fires, 109, hazmat responses, 205. Technical rescue, so those are people who are trapped in a trench, or a house has collapsed on them, rope rescue, stuck on the side of a cliff, those type of events, trapped in a vehicle where you have to use the jaws of life. The water rescues, we had 12 last year, and these are confirmed rescues. And then motor vehicle accidents, we got to work on our driving here in East Washington, I'm just going to say that. The rescue task force, we had 6 call-outs, but what I want to focus in on is that helicopter rescue, and here's why. First of all, everything that you see on this page and the next page, we're the only fire department in this county that provides this. So you guys get the full meal deal. With the helicopter rescues, we've had 7 call-outs, but people forget is when you're flying a helicopter, you got to meet specific parameters, right? If it's too hot, if it's too cold, if it's too windy, there's always something. However, we were able to perform at 2 missions, and the one I really want to talk about is the one that we had last month, where the gentleman was caught in the avalanche down in Walla Walla. He was on one of those ski bikes and got trapped, broke his femur, was already hypothermic when we got there, so he was already on his way to death. And we were able to get the chopper out there, and we were able to pick him up, load him up, and get him to the hospital. And he has been more than thankful and has let us know that things are going really good for him. And that's what we're here for. Fire prevention. Again, I told you about how important that is and the impacts that we've made even in reducing the fires that we had last year. We did 829 smoke alarms and 89 CO alarms, and that's a big deal. And we really do focus on the areas that need them versus the areas where people can afford those items. We let them kind of pay for those. People that can't afford them, that's what we're really focused on, is getting in those communities. That doesn't count the batteries that we've changed out and things of that nature. So over the last, from 16 to 21, we saved 11 lives by putting those in. So it's, again, very important. So continuing in on that, about that investment of our community, investigations that we had last year was 64. And the key here is we had 13 arrests. And I'm proud to say that our investigators, and this is one of them right here, is they're pit bulls, and they're going to go after those people. If you're committing a crime, we're going to go after you. It's important to do that. It's all about safety, and we had 13 arrests. That's a high number, so we are definitely on the job, doing the job. Permit inspections, we had 1,264, and plan reviews over 1,800. So we're busy, but our goal is to take care of the public and our businesses, and it shows in those numbers. We talked about this well, actually the first, I believe it was, no, this week of Community Risk Reduction Week. And speaking of community risk reduction, we are nationally recognized. We often travel. This young lady right here, she is our community risk reduction specialist, and she is just absolutely amazing, Caroline Kusher, and she travels around the country on our behalf, representing our communities, presenting on the good things that we do. And people come to her now, and even the National Fire Academy, and say, hey, how do we do this right? How do we do this better? Right now, one of the biggest initiatives that I thought we should do, because of all of our falls victims, is put in grab bars. So when we're in your house and we're putting in a smoke alarm, or we're in there for a call and we see that you need one, or you've had multiple falls, we're gonna say, hey, can we put a grab bar here for you? Because that's gonna help break your fall, but more importantly, keep you out of the hospital where the real sick people are, so you don't get sick there. And in case you have a job and maybe you don't have the time to take off, that's the goal of those grab bars. We provide the O2 thermal fuses, and that we never say we want you to smoke and and also use oxygen. But if you're gonna do that, we would ask that you reach out to us so that we can provide you with those so you don't kill yourself and burn the house down. WUBI, the Wildland Urban Interface, we provide that, junior fire marshal program, sound off program, home safety inspection. So you can see Caroline is, she's all over it. Fire and EMS education, we provide fire extinguisher training, stop the bleed, hands only CPR training. And you can see by the amount, those are the average per year adults and students that we're out there teaching. And this is hugely important because our maintenance and operations fund funds the bulk of that community risk reduction and fire and EMS education. And we definitely don't want to see that go away because, I mean, you can see the impact that we're making in our community. Our community affairs is constantly sending out the messages. We talked about Julie Happy earlier, and we are all over social media. Somebody the other day was talking to me about doing TikToks. I thought it was a tic-tac. I gotta get more up to speed on today's language and lingo and apparently things to do. But we're all over it, so we're constantly pushing out, hey, watch out for this. Hey, you know, there's an accident here. Hey, we're traveling there. So we're always trying to keep the public informed. We support our public safety partners. That's a big deal for us. This past week, I signed an ILA agreement, an interlocal agreement with Spokane County Sheriffs and Spokane Valley Police Department, where we provided them with AEDs because they're often first on scene. Allows them to get there and maybe start CPR and put on that AED and maybe have a shockable rhythm where they can get that life-saving measures started before we get there. And we've also implemented one with Liberty Lake where we provide them with AEDs as well. So it's important to get them involved. And then we have our auto aid agreements with District 9, District 8, and Spokane Fire Department and Kootenai County Fire Rescue. And just so you understand, that auto aid is specific. What it reference is who's closest to the call goes to the call. So even if it's my area, but you're closer, you cover that call and vice versa. And it's very important, especially in an area where we have a large community and we have a bunch of resources. Let's use them all. Funding. So we're funded from two areas, our regular fire levy and our maintenance and operations levy. We do receive an additional 1.7 from permitting and from grants. However, as you can see, the bulk of our funding comes from levies. Recently in 2022, 39% of our funding came from the regular fire levy and 61% from our M&O. And that's important. That was a whole reason we came to you guys and our taxpayers and our community to say, hey, look, we need to flip the script here. We're 61% dependent on a non-permanent levy that has to go to the voters every 4 years and requires a supermajority vote, and 40% of the voters that were at the general election have to show up and vote. That is a bad place to be, especially when we're talking about the solvency of your department. We brought that to the voters, it passed, and we flipped the script. So now we are 68% funded on that levy lid lift and 32% on the M&O. Now, speaking of that M&O, and that's why we're here, let's get into the meat and potatoes. It's that time of year again. So the most important part of this that I want to talk to all of our voters is this is a replacement levy. This is not a new levy. You're paying for this levy right now. The key is you're going to be paying less, and we're going to go into that in the next slide. But I just want to remind you that our regular fire levy cannot fully fund this department. And that isn't something because we're poor managers of our finances. That's just state law, RCW 84.52 and 0.55. Those actually require a cap, 1% cap overall yearly, and then $1.50 per 1,000 assessed valuation on the regular fire levy. So we're really handcuffed. The M&O, as I said, expires every 4 years, supermajority vote. And 2023 is the final year of our cycle, and that's what we're bringing it to our voters on February 14th next month. And it will be for 2024 through 2027. All right, so here's where my father-in-law says, just take me to this place. This is where I want to know. Show me the money. All right. So you can see in 2022, when it was 39% and 61%, 19 million versus 30 million. When we brought that to the voters, we were very clear that it wasn't about money. We didn't want more money. We wanted to provide you with a solvent fire department. And because of that, and to prove that, we are giving back $13.5 million to our community, our taxpayers, period. So we're only gonna take what we need, which was $16.5 million. Now, I don't know about you guys, I've been around for a while. I don't know of two or many or any government agencies that give back money just because they have a surplus. And we give it back to everybody who's a payer. And so that lowered your levy paying rate by 50 cents per thousand assessed valuation. So last year we paid $271, this year you're gonna pay $221. The key here is going into 2024 through 2027, what we're asking for the M&O is $25 million. Now, I want you to pay attention to the green, $1.08. So if you go down to the green on the bottom, that is not a typo. This will be the lowest M&O levy rate that we have paid since 1988. Now, I don't count 2023 because we are choosing to lower that. We would be going up to 280 instead of 221. But we chose to do that. So this is the lowest it will be since 1988. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I wasn't born in 1988. Oh, yes, I was. I know. It's a tough crowd. There we go. All right. And the combined levy rates, this will be the lowest since 1990. So again, it's not about we need more money. It's about providing what we're providing now and being able to provide a little bit more because frankly, as I told you, the call volume just in the last 2 years, call volume has gone up between 25 and 27%. So it's really important for us to get more investigators out there, to get more community risk reduction manager. It's important to stand up more units because we have the call volume for it. And so we are looking to grow a little bit. You can see about $10 million. And that is just to continually build the department and provide what we're already providing. So what did we ask for in 2019, and did we even do what we said we were gonna do? Well, we replaced what we could vehicle-wise. If you remember, this thing called COVID hit us, and it caused a ruckus. And so it really backed up everything, it shut everything down. So right now, I will tell you this, so you understand what we're talking about. When I got here 2 years ago, I bought 3 fire trucks. Those 3 fire trucks got here in 16 months. Right now, if you buy a fire truck, it'll get here in 41 months. That's the backup time. So we're still asking for your patience, but as you know, we're all about taking care of our equipment. We're fiscally responsible, and the bottom line is we will make our units last because we always take care of them. So that's the good news. So we put in Squad 10, alternative response unit. We changed out a bunch of equipment and training stuff. We remodeled Station 5. More importantly, we put in our maintenance facility just to show you how much of an impact that was. Again, all the equipment and things that I ordered for the maintenance facility, I ordered more than a year ago, and we're still waiting on some of those parts. So now it was supposed to have been completed at the end of November. Now they're hoping March the 1st. When we funded that, it was funded for $4.2 million. When we paid for it, and I'm still paying for it, we're over $9 million. That's how much the cost of everything has gone up. And that impact, what we did, we didn't put that back on our taxpayers. We just held off on other things that we didn't need to make sure we funded what we did. Station 11, I'm often asked, well, what about Station 11? Well, we talked about being fiscally responsible. One of the things I did was I looked at all the numbers and said, hey, do we need a Station 11 right now? And I couldn't do it. I think that's absolutely, it's one of those areas where if you don't need it, I'm not gonna spend the money because that's not fair to you as the taxpayer. It's not right. And I'm not gonna put it in there just because we said we needed to. If the numbers don't support it, and I have full support from our commissioners that said, hey, you know what? We don't need it right now. Let's hold off on it. We'll build it a little bit later. So if we did put it in right now, just so you know, it would get maybe 1 call a day. And that's what we're talking about right now because that area of town hasn't exploded because they're kind of held to a 10-acre standard. Now, if that changes, If that changes, then we're gonna go do this. So for our 2023 levy, so which is 2024 through 2027, some of the things that we're asking for, and I'm gonna kind of skip down towards the bottom on replacing the training facility. So right now, our training facility is 36 years old. Our tower's 36 years old. We can't burn in it. It's too old and too unsafe. So we had to put a little brick building next to it, and that's what we're burning in. Our training facility is just over 3,000 square feet. And it was built for a department with 60 firefighters and 6 fire stations. So remember we talked about we're pushing over 200 now, and we're bursting at the seams. And the facility was really built with no cancer prevention in mind, and more importantly, with really one gender in mind. And now we do have female firefighters, so we really need to step up our game. And so that is our focus. We want to put that in our new, we already own the property out on, gosh, why did that just skip my mind there? Barker and Garland. And so it's gonna go out there, and we are gonna build it with the ability to put it in, Fire Station 11. So if the need does come and we need to stand up an immediate fire station, we can put in Fire Station 11 there until we get the new Fire Station 11 built. In addition to that, we still have 28 vehicles that have way too many miles or are too old. We talked about adding firefighters and paramedics. Again, the busiest area within our response area is the Opportunity neighborhood. And those calls are, they bleed off here, up to here to the Millwood station, because they're having to go down, drop down into that neighborhood to help support it. So our goal is to stand up an additional fire engine there so that we can reduce the running of calls by our ladder truck, which is very, costs a lot of money to run that truck. We need to provide some more remodels, update facilities, and then obviously the continuous quality improvement through training with our personnel. Right now, this is our response area. Everything you see in blue, we will get to you going non-code, so no lights, no sirens. We'll get to you anything in blue in 90% of the time, and that's our goal. We want to be able to get to any place within our response district in 5 minutes and 45 seconds. So that's our gold standard. Everything you see in yellow is what we get to between 5:45 and 10, and then anything in red would be obviously later. And I mean, the area you see in red up there is not, it's part of the mountain. So the key here is our stations are located in the right places. And the yellow spot there in the middle is highly industrial with not a lot going on. So it just requires a lot of gate opening to get there, and that's why it's yellow. Now I want you to keep this in mind. After this slide, we're going to get to another map, and it's going to make sense in a second. But what happens if the M&O doesn't pass? And that really is what most people are asking. So here's the reality. And again, I'm not here to scare people. This is not a scare tactic. This is just the reality. If it doesn't pass, I'm going to have to close 3 fire stations. And I'm going to have to lay off 66 people. So 58 of those will be firefighters. And what some of the questions I get is, well, what's going to happen with those calls in those areas? Well, those other really busy fire stations that we talked about, they're going to have to go to these calls in addition to those other calls. And what people forget, and what I don't even have up here, is the wear and tear on those people. Our most precious resources is our responders, and we're going to beat them into the ground. They're already busy, but if this happens, they will be beaten to the ground. There's going to be a reduction of advanced life support services. There will be no auto aid. Remember we talked about the closest unit? That goes away. That is part of the contracts. No fire department is going to help another fire department where they're going to have to continually run your calls because they have taxpayers to answer to. It would be reduced availability, right? You have one fire call, that may take every chess player you have off the board. Higher insurance costs, we talked about that. We will go up to a class 4, class 5, or even a class 6 fire department in some areas. And so the taxpayers will feel that, as well as businesses. Now, we will try and bring it back to the voters again. April's out, is just too close of a time frame, but we have August and November as well if we have to. So here's what we're talking about. All that blue went away, and the reason it went away is because the 3 stations that first go away are stations 4, 5, and 9. There's no science to it. Those are our 3 slowest stations, so it would be those stations. Now, if you look at the 4 stations that are grayed out, stations 1, 7, 8, and 10, the reason for that is right now, we're running roughly 3 calls an hour, every day. And so when you reduce those 3 stations, that's gonna go to 4. And so you will see, take four off the table to begin with. Now, keep in mind, I'm showing you that there's 3 available stations, but what you have to remember is of those 4 stations that are on calls there, if they're on anything outside of a basic life support call, so if it's a fire call, if it's a heart attack, if it's a cardiac arrest, if it's an opiate overdose, all of those stations will be on the calls. So that takes everybody off the board. We're busy, and it will be impactful to lose 3 fire stations. Again, we're all hazard. We're invested in our community. This community is growing. This community has grown by 9% since our last levy. So, and obviously, call volume has just absolutely skyrocketed since the last levy. This M&O ensures our response. It's the lowest M&O that we have paid since 1988. Most importantly, this is not a new tax. We're paying it right now. This is just a replacement levy. And all we're asking from our voters, because we can't tell you what to vote, we're only asking that you vote and that you vote informed. And that's what we're doing out there and here right now so that you know what is and what is not. So in closing, that's what I have for you, and I'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
Questions for Chief Soto? Chief, thank you very much.
Thank
We do
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have a question, just thank you for the it was a very good presentation.
Did you have questions?
Good, no, and it's congratulations on a good presentation.
Thank you, sir.
know, nice, complete, good numbers.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much. All right, now you all sir.
At least stick around for public comment.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right, so, thank you. So that concludes our agency reports and presentations tonight. I did want to let the council know, we have been contacted by Spokane County Sheriff's Office. Under Sheriff Kittlestaff has availed himself for coming to the meetings if we wish. I want to get a sense from the council if that is something you want me to, maybe not every month, but maybe every other month, or are you looking to have him here present every month? Any thoughts from the council on that? Because I have been asked to respond to him.
I would suggest quarterly. I would think quarterly would cover my interest.
I don't know. I don't know, things come up, so maybe every other month.
Okay, we'll start with every other month
Yeah.
and see, and if we need to go more than that. I would say that we do get the sheriff's report in the back, so we are being apprised of that, but let's start with every other month, and I will.
It'd be nice to have a voice.
Yes, absolutely.
I
So,
imagine we pay for that. That comes out of our contribution to the state, to the sheriff's office.
It does, and it would be good for the undersheriff to come, because if the goal of the council, as we talked about back in the day, is to bring ourselves to 1 FTE of law enforcement as opposed to the 0.72 that we have now, to give ourselves a little more control in staffing, then we should probably have undersheriff here to make that known to him so we can begin those dialogues and figure out kind of what that would entail for the city. So I will.
It's been a few years since we saw the sheriff.
It has been a few years since we saw the sheriff. Well, it's been a few years since we saw a lot of people, so, but we
Yeah.
will get the sheriff here and get him going. So I will be on that. Thank you very much. So right now, that brings us to item number 5, public comments received. Public comments for items on the agenda can be submitted in public up to 24 hours prior to the meeting by mail, by electronic mail, or directly submitted to City Hall. Have we received any public comments?
No, we have not.
No public comments tonight. Thank you very much. Is there any need for an executive session this evening? And don't see any. So that brings us to item number 7, our action items for this evening. Our first action item is the consent agenda for tonight, consisting of the council minutes from our last regular meeting in December 2022, our December 2022 treasurer's report, claims, and payroll. Would any member of the council like to take any of those items separately tonight? Seeing or hearing no movement on that, do I have a motion on tonight's consent agenda as presented?
I make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as presented.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to item 7B, ordinance 536, amendments to the Title 17 zoning. Ms. Jansen.
In the second half of last year, I believe it was, that I brought to you the amended zoning regulations, which the Planning Commission had worked on for quite some time. You adopted those regulations at that time. As part of that update to the zoning regulations, definitions that were scattered throughout the chapter had been consolidated into one area and were proposed to be an appendix to the zoning regulations. I sent the approved document off to the codifier and they responded and said, there's no definitions here, but you keep referring to the definitions, but I can't find them. So we went back and looked, and the definitions section did inadvertently get left off of the draft that you approved. So tonight, what we are asking for is just for the council to approve that definitions section, and then that can go to the codifier and we can be done with that zoning code update.
Any questions for our planner on what transpired there?
So most of these are just replacements that we got dropped. I mean,
Yes, so the way the zoning
It must have been an
code.
interesting conversation if you had to debate each of these.
No, we didn't. So the zoning, our whole code, in fact, our whole municipal code has definitions scattered throughout. And it was the feeling of the Planning Commission that it would be better to consolidate those all into one area so that people didn't have to hunt and peck for their definitions. So yeah, we just took the definitions that were already there, moved them to a separate section.
Any other questions? With no other questions at this time, is there a motion from the council on ordinance 536?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 536.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, ordinance 536 is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. And that brings us to item number 7C, which is consideration for a motion on an interlocal agreement with Spokane Valley for building plan review and inspection. Ms. Jansen or Mr. Worst, do you wish to make the presentation?
Inspection or permitting? Permitting services, right?
Yeah, plan review, permitting, and inspections.
So as you probably know, for the past number of years, we have been enjoined with Spokane County in an interlocal agreement for building permitting and plan review and inspections. What that means is that residents of Millwood who need a building permit go to the county when they need a building permit. The county collects the fees, reviews the plans, issues the permit, and their staff does the inspections. Shortly after I came to work here, I met with representatives at Spokane Valley to inquire about the possibility of them taking over. There were a couple of reasons at the time. The biggest one probably being it felt like it was more convenient for our citizens to just have to go to Spokane Valley rather than to have to go downtown and pay to park. I was familiar with Spokane Valley's permitting process and how they ran things, and I was better able to make contact with their staff. The way that the county has their contacts can sometimes be a little tricky. It's taken all this time, but finally we have come to an agreement with Spokane Valley. So it was essentially the same agreement that we had with the county. Our citizens will go to Spokane Valley City Hall for their permitting. I will be granted access to their permitting software, which is something that I don't have now, so that I can track permits as they work their way through the system. I can send my approvals electronically. I can see where they are in their inspection process. I will have direct connection to the building inspector who will be covering our area. Another thing that occurred to me while I was listening to Chief Soto's report was it's Spokane Valley's practice when they take in a commercial building permit that it automatically goes to the fire department for review. And that is not something that I think has been happening up till now. So that's a real benefit to have them involved at the plan review level. So what you have before you is the interlocal agreement that has been approved and accepted and signed by the city of Spokane Valley. And if you approve it tonight, then effective January 15th, all of our permitting will be taking place with the valley.
So I'll make a few other comments here. If you have had a chance to review this, page 40 of your agenda packet lays out a very precise flow chart of the way things will go. And for the city, even though we are primarily built out, the nice thing is that we, in this arrangement, gain a significant amount of control that we currently don't have with the county. Not because the county is unwilling, but it becomes difficult within the level of work that the county does and the way their operations and their personnel change to gain that control. Also, as Christina said, we do get access to their automated permitting, so she can see exactly what's going on as the planning official. We have a very specific set of intake procedures. Somebody coming in with an application, unless it is for something simple like a mechanical element or a roofing inspection, things that we would not necessarily be engaged, we are involved at the very beginning. Spokane Valley will not issue any permits for a commercial building new, residential building new, without express permission and acceptance from her. So we get to sign off on the site plan first. Also at that time, Mr. Allen, Public Works, alerted to the idea for road approach permits, sewer permits, water permits. We're not working off it on the last bit of somebody comes in and says, hey, this is what's going on. And so then at the end of the day, the major change is the city of Millwood then issues the certificate of occupancy for that building. So we have the final sign off. Spokane Valley will let our planner know when all the permits are done, everything's been signed off, everything is approved, everything meets code, and our codes are exactly the same, no difference. But then that person still has to come back to Millwood and sign off. So we get that last crack at, did we get the water? Did we get the sewer? Did we get the GFC? Did we get the road approach permit before we issue a CO? So this actually for us gives us a much higher level of control over what is going on for building and permitting within the city. So I feel that it's a good situation. The fees are not particularly different. I think Valley's actually a little cheaper.
Yes, actually, I'm not well-versed in the county's fee schedule, but my understanding is that they have gone to a permitting fee based on windshield time, is what I've been told. So they calculate their permitting fees based on how long it's going to take their inspector to go to Rockford and that sort of thing. It makes a lot of their permits more spendy than Spokane Valley's way of charging for permits.
And then at the end of the day, I think the convenience for somebody doing work, business in Millwood, for being able to just simply go to City of Spokane Valley City Hall and get a permit, as opposed to track all the way down to the courthouse, do everything down there, just provides a level of convenience for our residents. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Christina would be happy to answer any questions. Brian's vetted it, and Brian worked extensively on it in getting it signed. So if you have any questions, be happy to. So at this time, I would look to a motion from the council regarding approval of the interlocal agreement as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement as presented.
I second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the interlocal agreement is approved, and I will sign and return that to City of Spokane Valley. Just so you know, we have done a search with Spokane County, and I think we had one. It was a re-roof. We had one outstanding permit that was a re-roof. So that will be finished off by the county, but we're not leaving anybody in the lurch right now by transferring from county to valley. So that has been addressed. So that concludes our action items for this evening. Thank you. So we will move on to our reports section. Mr. Allen, our Public Works report.
Okay. I just wanted to start out with the Chief Soto did a good job, explaining what they needed, and he was talking about the Washington Survey Rating Bureau, and that's why our insurance is so cheap, because they do have a really good rating. Part of that is because of all of the water municipalities as well. So, I mean, you guys are to be congratulated on that as well for supporting your water system, as well as the fire department, because we do upkeep our utilities, and a lot of the Spokane area do. That's why there's a higher rating. And I'm not taking anything away from Chief Soto, but I just thought you should be congratulated yourselves for supporting, updating, keeping the water utilities updated. So.
It's a whole community project.
It is, yeah, there's a lot of people involved in that. So if you've ever been involved with this Washington Survey Rating Bureau, which comes out every so often, and they send out lots of questionnaires and surveys to a lot of different people. And so the city always gets one, and we have to fill out about the utilities and where we're at on that, and where we're updated. Make sure there's no deficiencies and there's plenty of fire storage. So.
Hey, Paul, can I just add real quick on that?
Sure.
Just to piggyback on it, is a community. I would say Spokane Valley Fire and the communities out here, the water districts, public water sources, it's a good working relationship, because there are other areas of the county where the public water districts and sources are not on the same page with the fire districts. Whether it's locking mechanisms or access to hydrants or testing or whatever else. So, and I'm aware of those situations, so you guys should all be applauding the where you're at on the ratings. So, sorry.
No, that's fine. So, we had some issues with the water earlier on, and we did get that. Wasn't fire related, but we had some quality issues, so we ended up getting that taken care of. We did get the water tower and the booster station all back online and everything, so that's all good. We did have a few freeze-ups during that first part of December when it got so cold. Some of that, we didn't have a lot. There was a few people that they just didn't take the precautions necessary for that, and so we didn't have anything that was drastic, but there was a few calls. Butler Well, we did have an issue there after we put that back online. We had so we go out and we inspect all of our well sites and that. So the guys started noticing that there was like a plastic burning smell, and so we ended up getting an electrician in here and discovered that we had the main disconnect on that had a issue with some of the wiring, so we were able to take care of that before it burned up the whole electrical system or any of the pumps. So got that taken care of right away. Just to let you know that we are out there maintaining the system. We try to be proactive, and sometimes things just kind of, because we checked all of the loads and we were trying to figure out what the issue was, and there was no high draw amps on the motor side, so it was on the line side. So, let's see. Debbie's been working with Spokane County Utilities to determine the ERUs for the treatment costs. So there's been a lot of going back and forth with Spokane County, and doing a lot of research on what the consumptions were. Discovered there's been a few commercial accounts that basically have not been charged for the amount of ERUs that they've been using. So that's been going to be corrected. We did raise our ERUs because we've been using the same pretty much ERUs since the inception of this interlocal. So we went from 895.9 ERUs to 1,112.7, so it's an increase of 216.8 ERUs. So the treatment costs will be reflected on that. So there'll be a little bit of an increase in there. And I think we may have already made that adjustment to what it was, but Debbie and I will be going back over what these ERUs are. So might not increase, the normal single family, but some of these commercial ones, they're going to be paying a little bit more. I mean, there was one account that was not paying their fair share, and so it'd be more of an eye-opener for them. But, the more you use, the more you pay. That's the way our rates are set up now. The guys been busy doing all kinds of things this winter. The de-icing and plowing. Around the holidays, they got kind of pounded with the snow, and then it warmed up and turned to rain, and so they spent the rest of the time clearing dry wells and filling potholes. And so, I don't know, we've had a few calls. So we had one that popped up just over the weekend on Liberty. It was a pretty good sized one. So the guys were out there and got that one taken care of. But they've been out there just about every day trying to chase them down.
That was our speed control, I thought.
Yes.
We were moving toward speed dips instead. You won't let me put in speed humps, so we're getting speed dips.
So we're just leave the potholes?
Yes.
Okay. Deal with like Spokane does. So we had several other equipment issues this month as well. So the leaf vac, after we got all done, we tore that down to replace the impeller, and we tried as we might, and we could not get that impeller off that shaft. So when it comes from the factory, they don't put any anti-seize lubricant on it, so it's just like welded on there. So we pretty much destroyed that fan trying to get it off that shaft, and we still had adequate time. So we ended up taking it to a dealer here in Spokane, and they were able to get it off, and so we got it back. And so once the weather gets a little bit better, just as Councilman Stravens mentioned, there's a lot of leaves on that did get picked up because of the weather happened so soon. So we're looking at maybe doing another cleanup in the spring once the snow and ice are off the grounds. So we might look forward to that. If the weather continues like this, we might be able to start that in February. But at least we have the leaf vac back and ready to go again. So, but we did have a fan belt went on one of the trucks in between right after we got done plowing, and the clutch fan on the dump truck went out, and we couldn't find a clutch fan for that anywhere. Just like Chief Soto said, it's hard to get things. And to get them right away. So we ended up rebuilding that clutch van over the week and then ordered one. But, so we do have one now, so we'll just keep that one on the shelf. So in case something like that happens again, we've got it. But yeah, the guys, you know, worked hard to tear that down, get it all put back together, found some bearings and stuff, put it back together, and it worked, so. We also had a PTO drive shaft go out on the Kubota, and a drive shaft on Ford pickup went out. So, yeah, we've been busy doing some replacement of some, maintenance items on the trucks. So, it's kind of a rough year with all the plowing and stuff that we've done. Later this month, we'll be meeting with TIB to go over the grant applications that we put in last fall. And we have a new TIB regional engineer, so there'll be an introduction, get to meet him, and then discuss the applications and, you know, kind of see where we ranked and, you know, where, if there's anything we need to do to, you know, get a better opportunity for grants for those projects that we want to do. Let's see. The community forestry consultants, so we're doing our tree inventory and management plan. So he was able to complete it. It took a little bit longer, you know, he had some health issues and then the weather and everything. But we did get it completed before the end of the year, and we got our progress report sent into the DNR. So you need to get that project completed by June for the grant, but that's not going to be an issue. We do have a public meeting scheduled, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that for February 7th. So it'll be the first Tuesday in February at 6 p.m. So it'll be here at the City Hall. And then Jim Flott, who's doing the inventory and management plan, will be here to discuss that. So we'll have a public meeting, discuss, you know, what condition our trees are in, and recommendations for management. So if you can spread the word out to everybody, it went out into the newsletter tomorrow. So we'll be going out to everybody here soon, and then we're going to be putting up a few flyers around the city to let people know. So we'd hope to get a good turnout. We want to have public involvement in this as much as we can. You know, it's your trees, so we want to be able to maintain them. We did have some vandalism over the holidays as well, kind of a continuing saga. So the Millwood Trail lighting, we had somebody had gone in and gotten into the bottom of the post and clipped the wires and pulled it out. They're not getting much wire out of there. You know, it's just single strand wire. Some places they're only taking 4 or 5 feet because that's all they can get out of there. But every time they do that, it causes an issue. So we have fiberglass poles, and there's an access at the base, and it's got a plastic cover on it as well. So they were busting those off. So they were taking screws out, so we put different screws in there, some anti-theft screws. And then they were busting the backs off, so we took and replaced all the backs with metal plates. So, like I said, they were skipping like every other week or whatever, so it's hard to do it, and they're doing it at night. So, anyway, there's been about 3 or 4 different areas where they've gone. Usually it's in places where there's lower visibility, like behind the park and behind some of the places that have higher fences. So, anyway, if you happen to see something strange going on out there, please report it. We've tried to inform the neighbors along the trail as well that you know, if they see something, please call them. It's been frustrating, so we wanted to make sure that we were as protected as we can by replacing all those screws and putting better back plates on there for more protection. And before we have the electrician come in and redo them. So we're at that point now where we can have the electrician come in and redo it. And then, once it's done, we're actually gonna seal those screws up to where they can't get in there at all. And if we have to get in there, we'll figure out how we're gonna get in, but, hopefully, once we get that all repaired, that we won't have to have access to get in there anytime soon. So, it's just frustrating, you have something nice that the city's done for people, and again, it's a small community or percentage of people that are causing all the issues.
Anything else, Paul?
Not just, we're just doing some wintertime stuff. We're doing equipment inventory, and then updating the emergency response contacts, and then cleaning out some old files.
We did set the new generator.
We did set the generator, yeah. It's not hooked up yet, but it is finally set on the concrete, and so as soon as the weather breaks, then we'll be able to start moving forward on that to get it hooked up, put the transfer switch in, and have it ready to go for the summertime.
Any questions for Paul on the report? Thank you, Paul. So we'll move to, is it somebody?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Dan.
I'll wait for council comments.
Okay. Gotta have something during council comment. Save it. So, Christina, planning, code enforcement, clerking, et cetera.
I don't have very much this evening, just to say that the Planning Commission is continuing to work on the park plan. This coming meeting at the end of this month, the consultant will be back to discuss with them a couple of items that they asked for more information on, but I anticipate that that should come to you sometime in the spring for your review. I have a meeting on Thursday with the branding folks for them to show me the first drafts, I guess, of what they've come up with as potential new logos for the city. So I will likely be reporting back at the next meeting about that. Code enforcement, just following up on a couple of ongoing cases that are a little tricky. And other than that, I don't have anything else to report unless you have questions.
Any questions for Christina on anything that is in her purview? All right, so that brings us to 8D, 8C, legal. Anything from legal? Sorry, Mr. Worst.
Yeah, no, real quick, just wanted to update the council on the current status of the condemnation litigation that was commenced against the Inland Empire Paper. Again, just for record purposes, you will recall that there's one piece of property left remaining to obtain possession use, site control for the city to move forward both in financing and eventual construction documents and procurement of a contractor for the Argonne Road project. We were unable to obtain site control of that last piece of property that is owned by IEP during the calendar year, which resulted in forfeiture of funding by the city. We have, I need to look at my calendar just to make sure I've got the right dates here. We have a status conference with in the Superior Court on January 27th. That's basically just a calendaring conference where the court will issue the proposed schedule. Likely won't even see the judge at that conference. The soonest date that could be obtained for the first hearing that's in a condemnation matter, which is the hearing to determine public use and necessity, is March 3rd. We secured that date. You may have read in the newspaper there's a shortage of Superior Court judges in Spokane County as well. So that's the first phase, and really the sole issue of that hearing, to the extent it even has to occur, is whether the city's proposed use of the public property is public use and necessary. Most of the time that is, there's a stipulation by the parties. We have not been approached with the offer of stipulation on that. But we will prepare and plan and file the pleadings necessary, including the ordinance that's been adopted by the city council. We will also request use and possession and use in writing, which is required by the statute. I think we've technically already done it on numerous occasions, but we will do it in a more formal manner that can then be filed with the court as well. If the offer is accepted within 30 days of receipt, no further hearing, and we can then go back to where we were planning last year, and although we're back at square one looking for funding and moving forward on the project. If possession and use is not granted or otherwise agreed to by Inland Empire Paper, it will go to hearing. And we will seek an we'll seek an order adjudicating public use. What's interesting about that is if it goes to hearing, and I don't think there should be any great dispute regarding that this is public use. If we prevail on that, the opposing party loses all rights to attorney's fees, and then we proceed to an expedited trial date on the value of the property. Just so you're aware, there was a fast and furious effort in December on the part of the city. I had to go back and actually look at some of my notes and the timing, but the city was first approached by legal counsel from Inland Empire Paper back in very late September of last year. We had been advised by IEP's legal counsel that they would have some engineering suggestions and some documents to propose regarding their business interruption mitigation concerns. We waited. There was communications all through November. We finally received proposals on a business mitigation plan or provisions to be incorporated in construction documents. We received from IEP's legal counsel those on the afternoon of December 8th. The city, through its engineers, legal counsel, mayor, public works, basically everybody that was in the MASH unit possible, turned those around and got redrafts back to IEP on Monday, 12/19. Again, continuing to communicate in writing, we desperately need to get this wrapped up in this calendar year. As the kids say, we were ghosted after that point in time. We heard nothing. We got no response. We got no response whatsoever. So read into that as you wish, but we are now in the mode of preparing for the condemnation proceedings. I don't think the effort, diplomacy takes two parties, at least two parties, and we just didn't reach that point, unfortunately. So that's a out of executive session update, all on public record of where we stand.
So a couple things, just so to be clear, we did not lose all funding. We lost some very specific elements of funding, but we did not lose all the funding for the project. Second is that regarding the public use, Inland Empire provided documents that brought into, at the time that they sent over the business interruption mitigation plan, calling into question the idea that certain elements of the proposed project were in the public interest and of public use. We quickly refuted that. We obtained not only our elements from the initial planning and the funding, but we did also receive a letter from SRTC that very clearly laid out that everything that was proposed as part of that was in the public use. So we have already gone to the point of being able to demonstrate that everything within that project is for public use and for public benefit. So that was taken care of very quickly. We continue to look for ways to engage IEP. We do hold hope that when we get to the March 3rd deadline that we might be able to get them to the table and see what's there and not go to a full-on condemnation process. But I think at this point, we're just going to continue to let the process move as the process moves and be prepared for whatever. But we are, I would say myself, Mr. Worst's firm, SRTC, WashDOT, Union Pacific, anybody else who is involved, Welch Comer, anybody else who is involved with this project from a design or funding aspect is more than confident that everything that we have done is in the public interest. And so that would not be a hard hill for us to demonstrate in court. So I would ask if there's any questions of Mr. Worst. I would simply say that there still are some elements that are probably, what has been provided in public session is provided in public session, and we did not look for an executive session. If anybody wishes to ask Mr. Worst any questions, please reach out to him directly. Mayor's comments tonight, I'll just move into mayor's comments because I started talking already. IEP is the big one. I will say that there was, oh man, that's horrible. I am very busy these days and everything just kind of blends together in my head. Glad to get the, thank you very much, glad to get the interlocal agreement signed with City of Spokane Valley. That I think will go a long way to helping the city and us. I want to give another shout out to Paul and his crew. They definitely, during the snowfall and everything, did a great job. We will be looking at ways to address the leaf issue that we had during the go-round there right before Thanksgiving. At this point, other than IEP, we're kind of just looking for elements for what would go forward from there, if there's anything. And so, are there any questions for me? Oh, that was it. We don't have a treasurer's report this evening. Our treasurer is not feeling well, but I do want to say that we did have our exit interview for the audit from Department of Commerce. We did not have any significant issues, just some ways that we need to let folks know with respect to elected officials who might also be public employees. So there is going to be some information, things like that for retirement issues, stuff like that. So Debbie will be preparing some entrance or some explanatory documents and things like that. But that audit has been wrapped up and that is complete and we are taking care of on that. Yeah, so that is done. So that was the last thing I wanted to get into. Any questions for me tonight? Great. So that brings us to item 9, council information, no action or discussion. Your sheriff's report is in there. There is not a scraps report. Your mayor is currently trying to figure out why we don't get scraps reports anymore, and so hopefully we will get that corrected and get back to a scraps report included as part of the packet. Are there any public remarks? So did we receive any letters, emails?
No, we did not.
And so by camera you cannot see, but we have nobody in the audience, but I will do the customary call. First call for public comments, second call for public comments, third and final call for public comments. Seeing no one step forward, that will close our public remarks section. And now we move to council remarks. We'll go the other way today. We'll start with Mr. Stravens.
No comments tonight, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sander.
Well, I'll take Kelly's option for one and my own. Back on the, as the fire chief mentioned about the insurance rates. In the past, I had a small water system in Walla Walla County that made improvements to the water system. And their insurance rating went down enough to pay for the improvements, you know, the monthly bill for the water, you know, increased charges of the water system, you know, so that was an amen, and it's And it's good to see that, the District 2, and if you haven't, if your insurance company doesn't know you're in District 2, you should probably let them know you're in District 2, you know? And the second thing is, is a good thing for Paul and the crew. One of the few systems that on a routine basis, does their electrical checks. On your daily log of production, you've got your amp readings, and I forgot if it's monthly or twice a month when you.
The rate?
Yeah, no, the amp readings.
Oh, we do it every time we go out, so we go out
Oh, every time.
3 times a
Okay.
week.
At any rate, in a couple of my classes, I hand out the Millwood record-keeping page and talk about the amp reading, and that saves us a bunch of money. So it's a pain to do another read, but it pays off, so congratulations and good work.
Thank you, Mr. Sander. Mr. Van Hees, any comments?
No comments tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Culler?
No comments.
Ms. Beesey?
No comments other to say thank you for the tree report and that I look forward to the February 7th meeting.
So I've got one question about that. So we'd like to have the council there, but if they come, then that constitutes a special meeting?
It's noticed, isn't it? Yeah.
So we're noticing, this is a special meeting for the tree board as well.
Okay.
We could notice it up.
You could notice it up, and if you have a quorum, it's great. If not, meeting was canceled.
We're not conducting any business, so.
Well, receipt of information is technically action under the OPMA, so I think it's always the safest to note it up, and, you're not taking a vote or otherwise taking a final action, which is yet another term under the OPMA, so.
So I think if folks wish to avail themselves of that meeting as their schedule allows, we'll ask that it be noted up as the council for a special meeting, and then if a quorum doesn't materialize, it didn't meet a quorum. If it does, then someone can open it up if I'm not there and close the meeting at the end, and just no business transpired. So that's awesome. We'll take care of that. Thank you. With no other council remarks, and we just touched on the announcement for the special tree board meeting, we will set our next meeting for February the
14th.
14th. Really? Yeah. Awesome. We will set the next meeting for February 14th, Tuesday at 6 p.m. And with that, I would look for a motion from council to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.
Do you remember the last